I think it is walking my talk, because I help people who are maybe, they trade their time for their paycheck or their
Hmm.
energy and capacity, and they want to have that time back. And so I think that's how I walk my talk, by really thinking about what is the kind of life I want to live.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Swin, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Naama Zusman, a life and career coach who has spent her career witnessing countless people live by other people's rules, choosing paths that aren't fully aligned, and quietly wondering, is this it? Naama's mission is to help people answer the call of their hearts, trust their own wisdom, and pursue the work and experiences that bring deep fulfillment rather than just external validation. Her coaching supports clients through some of life's boldest moves, leaving behind a 10-year career for something new, transitioning into a new industry, starting a business, or simply showing up as their whole, authentic self at work without apology. Naama builds the resilience her clients need to ride the natural evolution of their lives and careers, proving that small and big leaps of faith become possible when you finally stop following everyone else's rules. Welcome to the show, Naama.
Thank you, Pedro.
Yeah, great to have you. Okay, and I'd love to rewind a bit because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you, Naama?
You know what? I think it was a lot of small moments. I don't think there was this one moment. Um, and I think it was the small moments when I realized, like, I really do have a freedom to create what I want, flexibility, agency over my time, and obviously the ability to create valuable, tangible outcomes for people. So, I mean, very privileged that I get to do this work, and this is my work, that I can earn a living, truly, as much as it sounds cliche, doing what I love.
Okay. We were talking before the podcast, right? You started in 2017, right? So, and I'd love to understand how that leap went, right? That leap of faith when you started your own business. From it started with advice giving in the coaching space. It started with kind of organic, natural. We're testing waters. I'm helping people to, you know what? I'm building a real business around this, right? So when did you felt like this was a real business? Was it the first invoice? Was it the first paying client? When you realize, okay, there's actually something happening that is not just testing waters anymore.
Yeah, I think the day I took a loan from the bank to pay my very first kind of business mindset coach, that was the day I made a commitment that this is real and I'm gonna stick to it. And it's not a hobby or something that's nice to do on the side. So really kind of making that statement towards myself, and obviously my surrounding, and my partner and the bank.
That's interesting. Like that's what I call commitment, right? We're talking about taking a loan to pay for a professional mindset coach to help you through the journey you're currently in, right? Was it too scary to take that loan? I mean, can you walk us through how that feeling went?
No, to be honest, somehow it wasn't so scary. I mean, of course there were scary parts about it, but I think I had this inner conviction that it will be fine, that it will work out. And there was something really exciting about it, about betting on myself, and giving myself the permission to invest in myself and what I want and my dreams. And I think, when you take a coach or a mentor and you invest in something like this, you are, by taking that's the first step, right? That's the first step to telling yourself, I'm in it, I'm gonna go full in.
Mm. It's like you have your back against the wall. It's all in or nothing right now, right? It's almost like pushing yourself to do something. Sometimes we kind of need someone to do that for us. Sometimes we do it ourselves, as you already know, right? You're a life coach and all that. Now, I'm curious about one thing, because in the early days of coaching, I'm a coach myself too, right? Sometimes we're trying to help everyone, right? And eventually we start noticing some patterns of people we like to work the most with. Sometimes it's a demographic, sometimes it's just behavior, right? The type of people we want to work with. So after you got rolling, who are the people that kept showing up? Now the ones you realize, okay, this is my tribe, this is the people I serve.
Well, you mentioned COVID before we started recording this podcast. And in COVID, I did notice a pattern of people who come to me, they're unsatisfied with their jobs. They want to do something more fulfilling, something that's more maybe aligned with their values, something that allows them to live the life they want to live. And so I did notice that pattern, and I did notice, like, yes, this is really what lights me up. Supporting these type of transformations and these type of people who want to make a change. And that is also kind of where I've been so many times. So I felt I also had the life experience to back it up.
Yeah, sometimes like I wonder, right? At least but I have some, like when I was in kindergarten and I go to high school and I go to college, and sometimes I look at these people like right beside me, and it seems like they have all figured out, right? And I'm like turning 40, and sometimes I even wonder, like, is this something I'm going to do? Is this something happening? So it's interesting that I'm not alone. I'll put it something like that. We still have people that are figuring it out, right? And it's normal to do so. Now, I'm curious about one thing, which is, and I'd love to have an exercise with you. Basically, it's like I'd love to pretend I'm your ideal client profile, right? I am a guy that still wants to make a change. I'm still not satisfied, right, with my life/career choices. Okay, so I'm your avatar. So let's put it like that. And first of all, how would I be able to find you, Naama? I mean, marketing wise.
Either on social media, I think that is my main place where people find me to begin with. I also get people who find me on Google search. Um, and finally, word of mouth. So one of these three would probably be one of the ways you'd find me.
Okay. So I was browsing the web, as the old people say, like me, right? And I eventually found you through SEO, right? Google, or even social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it. Or maybe someone told me, hey, Pedro, you gotta meet Naama, right? A referral, a word of mouth. And I was like, okay. So I reach out to you in the same exercise. I'm still your avatar. And I'm like, hey, Naama, how does it look like to work with you? Right. So we went through the sales process. Let's simply put, there is alignment. Okay. And you may have different offers. We can talk a little bit about that. But what I would love to do is for you to walk me through, how does it look like to work with your business, right? And what are the potential outcomes I can expect out of it?
Yeah, well, I have different services or products, so it really depends. But assuming that you're talking about one-to-one coaching, then we would work together for 6 months, where we'll have a kickoff session, which is 90 minutes, and the rest are 50 minutes. And I kind of, obviously, one-to-one is always going to be tailored and personalized to you, but I follow a very kind of rough journey where I divide our work together into 3 phases, where the first phase is explore, where we will explore you, kind of who you are in life and in work, what you want out of life, what you want out of work. We'll explore your values, your skills, your strengths, your passions, what's really important for you to experience in life and in work, and so on. And so by the end of that phase, we have this kind of blueprint of you. Mm-hmm. This is who you are, and this is going to be our North Star for the rest of our work together. And it's going to help us make decisions and kind of carve out next steps that are aligned with your blueprint. The second phase is the dream phase, where we kind of dream all career possibilities. The sky is the limit. We brainstorm, and I always encourage, at this point, I always encourage clients to not limit themselves, because even if something is objectively, let's say, not realistic, then we're going to look at what is it about this desired career that really attracts you. And so we can always kind of glean more information out of that, and then see what possibilities are out there that are maybe more realistic. And so by the end of this phase, we'll have some ideas, we'll have some possibilities that we kind of will judge against your North Star, your blueprint. What is the most aligned, and so on. And then finally, the create phase is really about testing ideas, about seeing which career path is the most kind of interesting for you to follow, most aligned, and then we build a plan to bridge the gap between where you're at and where you want to be. So that is kind of the journey. It's I usually spread it over 6 months, where we have sessions every 2 weeks, because I really think that this process needs a bit of time. It needs breathing space. Yes, we can have weekly sessions, but in my experience, clients need the time to kind of digest and allow space for the coins to drop. Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of my clients do have a full-time job and maybe other life responsibilities. So, it needs to also be sustainable for them.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned one-on-one and different offers, right? Mm-hmm. I assume, and I shouldn't assume things, right? So that's why I'm going to ask, do you have a one-to-many component? Do you have a group setting? I'm curious about the different offers. Just I have a sense of things.
Yeah. So I currently have, I have a signature workshop called Your Inner Compass. And that's a 2-part workshop. So there are 2 sessions, consecutive weeks. Every session is an hour and a half. And it's really about the fundamentals of, if you want to make a change, or if you're at this crossroads, or you're starting to think about change and you're not sure. It's basically about teaching you the tools, my own framework to navigate crossroads and transitions, make decisions, trust your wisdom, so on. So that is one-to-many. I already ran it, I think about 4 or 5 times. And each time I had about 120 participants. So that's that. I have a group coaching program called Start Your Thing. And this is specifically for people who want to start their thing, whether it's a business, a side hustle, a creative pursuit. And so that's a bit separate from one-to-one, because one-to-one can be the person who wants to start a business and the person who wants to just transition or, go through some kind of life and career transition. So it's obviously like a little bit more wide and open, and the Start Your Thing is specifically designed for people who want to start their thing. And then I have a guide, like a PDF guide that is evergreen, and that's called Try Before You Leap.
Interesting. A lot of things going on. A lot of plates moving. I love that. Okay. Now let me ask you this because I'm curious, right? You mentioned you do have clients that are full time. And I know sometimes for coaching, that could be a challenge. Like they have a full time job. This is your full time job. Let's say you want to respect some boundaries, right? You want to work like, let's say, 9 to 5, but sometimes they're not available at 9 to 5. And you have to, have a different kind of schedule, more flexibility. So, how you navigate that for the coaches listen out there? How do you navigate that? Do you have like, to it's a balance of things, right? Family and all that. You have a family and you have your personal life, and sometimes you don't want to take a call at 7, 6, 8 p.m. So how to manage that, I'm curious.
Okay. And I'll have to be honest, at the beginning, I took whatever I could. And I think that's important to say it, because I think at the beginning you're building yourself, you're building your experience, your credibility, your expertise, and I think you need to be a bit less selective. At this time in my coaching, I have very firm boundaries. I don't do any evening sessions apart from the one-off, right? Like sometimes if a client has a regular session on Thursdays at 12 p.m. and one week we can't manage to reschedule it because he has a work meeting, then, I'm flexible enough to do the odd evening session. But like you said, I have a family, I have 2 kids. And also I feel like I can give the most value in, the morning during the day, rather than in the evening where I'm already, finished with my day. So I do have those boundaries. I also finish work every day at 3 p.m. because I want to pick my kids from school. And that is really, really important for me. And I also don't do clients on Friday at all. Friday is my kind of creative day where I create content or develop new programs. And I try to have 2 kind of concentrated coaching days. So rather than like spreading them throughout the week, it works better for me to have more like back-to-back coaching days. So that's kind of how I work these days, where I can be more selective and really work with my own boundaries and what works best for me. But and of course, I have the flexibility to change it and to honor if someone needs to change the session. But more or less, this is kind of how I work. And I have to say that the benefit of working with people in different time zones is that actually, if I'm based in the UK, but if I'm working with a client in the US, my end of the work day is usually their morning, so that works for them before work. So there is more place to play when it's when you work with different time zones.
Interesting, but in a way, you had to earn that spot, right? You mentioned yourself. You at the start, you're just building your practice. You gotta make things work, and I love that, the honesty about that. Now, I'm curious about another thing, which is kind of a hot topic, right? You kind of mentioned you had to earn your spot, and I see a lot of coaches out there with this topic specifically, struggling a little bit at the start, which is pricing. Okay, but I'm not talking about hard numbers. It's more about the mindset behind it, right? It's a very self-worth path for the coach because he's trading usually his time for pay, right? So how did that look like for you? I mean, I've seen coaches doing pro bono free work and burning themselves out with people that are not even showing up. And I've seen coaches like charging way, way more than they should, right? So how do you think about it today? And were there any lessons along the way that shaped how you landed where you are about pricing specifically?
Well, I think you gave the 2 kind of extremes, right, in the spectrum, and I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. So I actually never did any pro bono, any free sessions, even not at the beginning, because I think that when and that's what worked for me, right? For other people, I might, I'm just saying what worked for me. For other people, it might be worth it giving a few free sessions or programs. But I think that when you are you are pricing yourself. It's a lot about what you're telling someone, this is the value. I bring value. When you're giving it for free, then there is that exchange that doesn't really happen, right? Like what are you giving? And I think, of course, when you're at the beginning, you need to charge less because you need to gain expertise, you need to gain experience. So I think it's absolutely fine to charge much less than you will charge later. But I think charge something. And that is also for the commitment of your coachee, right? Of your client. Because I think the moment you pay for something, it makes you more committed. Mm-hmm. If you get something for free, you're less committed, you're less invested. So I think for the transformation of the person you're helping, it is better for them to pay, even if it's, a very discounted price.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Your work seems pretty hands-on, right, Naama? And very customized to an extent, specifically about the one-on-ones. So I see a lot of coaches out there, they advocate against burnout, but they're burning themselves out in the process because they're wearing all the hats. They have a lot of one-on-ones, right? Specifically customized. So how do you think about capacity? So don't stretch yourself too thin and get yourself burned out in the process.
Well, I think it's, again, seasons of life and seasons of business. And I think at the beginning of your business, you have to stretch yourself a little bit. It is, and I don't think there is another, in my experience, and maybe I'm old school, I don't know. But I think you have to be a bit, you have to give a bit more at the beginning. And then and sometimes because you will have maybe a full-time or part-time job and you build your coaching business alongside, that's a big stretch, isn't it? Anyway, so and even if you don't and you're building it from scratch, you will take a bit more than you can maybe at a certain point because you have to also learn what you're able to do. Until you do it, you don't know how many coaching clients can you have a day. I have learned that I can do about 4 to 5 clients per day, not more than that. And that's my capacity. But it's learning through experience. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I think you did. First of all, you got to understand there's a cost, especially in the beginning, right? You're going to have to sacrifice something, right? And it's going to be a little bit of a stretch at first. So that makes sense. The second one, which you addressed, at least as I understood, is you eventually you hit a point that you're going to know more about yourself. And then you're going to set up the boundaries. I got that right? It's something like that?
Yeah, and also not only you know more about yourself and then you set the boundaries, if you got to that point, it also means that you have more, you have enough demand, so you can set those boundaries. I think what often happens in the coaching space, and tell me if you agree, is that you set the boundaries a little bit too early, and then you wonder why you don't get any clients. Because you already decided that you're only going to take clients in a certain amount for a certain amount of money, which is quite high, maybe for a beginner. And you already decided that you're only going to work 2 days a week and only in the morning. I don't know. I'm just so I think that you need to build that level of demand, and that's where you really get to decide how you are going to work and what kind of boundaries you want to have.
That makes sense. You kind of have to earn your spot, right? Like before you start setting up boundaries, if you have no leverage, if you're not well established yet, that makes sense. At least as I understood that you said that. Did that make sense?
Yeah, but I think, of course, I'm not saying that you need to work every day till 2 a.m. and sleep and not sleep and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like, I think you get the more experience let's sum it up like this. The more experience you gain, the more selective you can be. That's how I see it. The more experience you gain, the more selective you can be.
Right. So the truth, again, is in the middle. Like I gave you first examples, radical examples. You're like, yeah, I think we kind of have to find like a balance of things. Okay. Now,
Yes.
shifting gears for a second, let's talk about future, right? I'm curious about where you're taking all this, looking ahead. Where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about hiring, scaling? Is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah. So hiring is something I'm considering. I'm still considering. For me, I want my business to keep growing, obviously, but I also don't want to be tied, or I created this business for my freedom and for my flexibility. And so I know, of course, hiring someone can help me with that. And at the same time, that's also someone to manage, right? So that is something I'm kind of still, I think, considering with myself. But I think I'm at the point where I kind of have to hire someone at some capacity. The other thing I'm working towards is building some kind of membership community. And so actually simplifying my business model at this point, where I can bring all these different offers into one place, and then, have a one-to-many offer.
Interesting. Okay, that's exciting. The membership, and also hiring, right? It's almost like we were talking about. It's like you got to sacrifice a little at the beginning again. So you're gonna have to hire and manage, but after that is done, it will pay off, and actually keeping that lifestyle and even ramping up a little bit more your business. So that makes perfect sense. Now, I'm curious, right? Because whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, always something we're refining in the present, right, Naama? So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
You mean like my own professional?
Yeah. Like, I'm developing X, Y, and Z for the membership community, or like, for example, me, I'm a coach too, right? So I'm developing a low ticket, top of funnel, so I can connect with my group setting and building a wait list. That's something I'm working on. Now, how about you?
Yeah, so I think that membership is the main thing I'm working on, and for me now it's about simplifying. I want to simplify. I want my membership to be my core offer, and then I might start your thing, my group coaching program, once a year, maybe twice if I feel like, and I'll have maybe, I don't know, 2 high paying clients or something like that, or not more than a handful, that's for sure. So I kind of want to simplify and work towards that membership model, which I think will give me more time to create valuable content and to serve people in a way that also makes it more accessible to more people.
Not sure if connected, but it sounds like there's a lot of this, the architecture you're mentioning, towards keeping a certain lifestyle and some boundaries so you can keep your personal life in check, right? Yeah. While addressing the coaching side of the business and all that. But it's not just like growing just growth by growth. It's just like very intentional growth. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What leads my decision and my decisions in my business, and how I kind of keep evolving it, is really based on on my values and the life I kind of want to live. And my business will always have to support that. For me, like picking up my children from school is really important. And that's like that's a hard boundary. And, I don't work at weekends unless, I have a workshop, which is, every now and then, that's fine, but not as a regular thing. So it's really kind of honoring. Well, I think it is walking my talk, because I help people who are maybe, they trade their time for their paycheck or their energy and capacity, and they want to have that time back. And so I think that's how I walk my talk, by really thinking about what is the kind of life I want to live, what's really important for me, what are my values that I want to make sure I keep prioritizing it, keep prioritizing them. So that's kind of what leads my decisions and my strategy.
Okay. Now, let's have a fun exercise for a moment here. Let's pretend a little bit of science fiction, okay? Let's pretend we have a time machine in front of you. You have the opportunity to go back to 2017 when you started your own coaching business, right? And you can give yourself one piece of business advice that you know now that you wish you knew back then. What would that be?
I think it will be scrappy. Like, just do things, be scrappy, do things. Don't allow yourself to just experiment. And also don't be shy, or don't be shy to reach out to your network, to really leverage your contacts. Because I think when I look back, I think I kind of wanted to hide this part, because I was just, was a bit shy, and what would they think of me? And actually I could leverage my contacts way better at the beginning. So I think that's kind of the main thing. Be scrappy, just experiment, don't overthink, and leverage your contacts, your network.
I love that. Put yourself out there, right? And if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Naama, and we're going to have all the links in the description, but where can people find you best and connect with you?
I think Instagram is the place where I kind of hang out the most. So I would say on Instagram, and email. You can email me.
Okay. There were a few moments from this chat today that I would love to highlight, right? First of all, when we were talking about your origin story, right? When you started coaching and you're like, well, there was no aha moment, were small moments, right? That keeping adding up. So organic, right? So natural too. And then we moved to talking about the loan you took from the bank to pay the mindset coach. And one thing that really caught my attention is that I asked you if that was scary, and you're like, no, it was actually exciting. So it's looking at the glass half full, right? It's not just about a leap of faith of, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's more like, this is awesome. I'm going to make it work. I'm excited, right? So I love that. Also, when we were talking about your business and your onboarding me, right? Theoretically, you're like, there is the exploration phase, so you explore what you want, what you want to achieve, and the dream phase, which I love the fact there is no ceiling in the dream phase. It's about I think at the end of the day, it costs the same to dream small or big, right? So
yeah,
dream big,
absolutely.
right? I love that. Then we move to the pricing bit when you mentioned the commitment, right? And that really hits home, because I think if people have no skin in the game, it turns harder. It becomes harder to ask for commitment. It's almost like if you don't respect your time and you're doing it for free, why should they? Right, at the end of the day. And it makes so easier for them to no show and all that. And I always, whenever I talk about commitment and skin in the game, I always remember myself playing Texas Hold'em with my buddies in college, and then it was like $0, no stakes at the pot, and everyone was all in, so courageous, right? And then if there's $1 in the pot, the game completely changes because they got something to lose, right? So I think that's a very powerful reminder for coaches out there listening too. Yeah. Now, this is my long-winded way of saying, obviously, that I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. Okay, it was great having you on.
Thanks, Pedro. It was great having you as the interviewer. Thank you for the great questions and reflections back.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.